Greetings, Bat Family. Welcome to Holy BatCast, brought to you by Real Fans for Real Movies. Make sure you visit our website, holybatcast.com, or find us all over social media on Facebook, Twitter, X, Instagram, YouTube, all of it. Just find Holy BatCast. You'll find us. That's it. We're it. If you're a fan of the show and you want to help support us, you can do that on Patreon. You go to patreon.com/holybatcast. As always, a big old thank you to our patrons. You guys are amazing. Hope you know that you're appreciated. And just special thank you to all our patrons. You guys are the best. So for everybody who's done it, we do appreciate you. We know that you don't have to, and so it just means that much more. Thanks for doing that. We're also part of the Real Fans Podcast Network, so you can check out those shows at rf4rm.com. And I will throw in a quick plug here. It is spooky season, which means the Real Fans feed is about to get real busy. So if you're in the mood for spooky content, keep an eye on the Real Fans feed, because there's going to be a lot coming over the next few months. Actually, all the way through the new year at this point. You know, once it's September, we do lots of seasonal stuff all the way up until the end of the year. And then what else? I am Andy DiGenova, your Bat host. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, or Letterboxd. It's just my name, Andy DiGenova. This episode, we have a very special chat with a very special guest. A couple of months ago, in June, we talked about the old Batman OnStar commercials from the 2000s. And so today, well, not really today, a couple days ago, but for you, it's today. I had the chance to speak to Bruce Thomas, who played Batman in those commercials. So gonna have that fun chat with Bruce. He was a lovely guy, super gracious and very nice. And so that is for you all. That'll be fun. And then we're going to review the next episode of The Batman. So joining me for all the stuff except for the interview, it's been, he took last week off. I'm trying to think of the last time he was on. But anyway, you know, he and Brendan, they tag in, tag out. It's Jamie Drewley. Hi, Jamie. Welcome back.
Well, you know, if we would stop this whole feud thing, I guess it would be okay. But, you know, third world people have a tendency of being temperamental, and I don't put up with it. So
it's all his fault. Let's be honest.
I agree.
Well, welcome back. And yeah, maybe, you know, someday, anytime there's a new movie, we'll bury the hatchet. You guys will pretend to like each other.
Well, then, that all depends on the release schedule too, because I think they're getting Blue Beetle down there in 2026.
Yeah, I think so. It'll be nice. I feel like they're going to get it has it been out a month yet? Not quite.
I think he said it was about a month after we got it. So it's been
so maybe next
3 weeks or so, something like that.
Yeah. Well, that's what he gets for living out there. But today it's me and you. Cool. Well, we're going to talk about some stuff. Before we do that, I got to give a shout out to Manscaped. And guess what, Jamie? This one is for you, because Manscaped wants to remind you that football season is back.
I know. Today.
Is it today?
It did. Well, technically it kicked off Thursday night, but my season starts today because the team that I watch plays today.
All right. Well, anyway, Manscaped is also celebrating football season, so you know what that means. Touchdown dances, Sunday tailgates, and epic fantasy showdowns. But fellas, let's not forget the real MVP of the season, introducing the all-new Beard Hedger Pro Kit by Manscaped, your ultimate luxury beard grooming experience. This kit is your secret weapon to staying sharp on and off the field. Don't fumble this opportunity. Head to manscaped.com and elevate your grooming game with the Beard Hedger Pro Kit. Join the 9 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped. You heard that, 9 million, or 109 MetLife stadiums. All right. Go to manscaped.com, get 20% off and free shipping with the promo code BATSCAPED. So there you go. They want you to know about their Beard Hedger Pro Kit. So if you are someone who keep a beard, you want to make sure it stays nice and tidy, check out the Beard Hedger Pro Kit. But they don't just have that. You know, they have the trimmers and the deodorant and the body wash and the shampoo and the new oh my god, is it the Handyman? Well, This is what happens when I'm doing this early in the morning. The Handyman, which I love, I've been using all the time. So they have all kinds of great male grooming products for you. So if you're out there and you're looking and you want to up your grooming game, no matter where, on your face or elsewhere, Manscaped has you covered. All their stuff's awesome. Jamie and I use it all the time. Brendan does too. We're big fans, and so it's high quality stuff, and you get to save some money. Use Batscaped. Get 20% off and free shipping. Use Batscaped, because that way you're saving money, you're getting nice stuff and you're supporting Holy BatCast in the process. So their stuff has been awesome. I've been very happy with everything. And so, yeah, I'm running out of some stuff. I'm going to have to do an order soon, which is fine. I don't mind doing it. But go to manscaped.com. Just do a little perusing. If you are, again, someone with a beard, check out the Beard Hedger. If you're not, then, again, all the other stuff is great, too.
Wearing it right now, and I smell wonderful.
Great. I'm not, because I haven't showered yet, because, I got to ease into my day on the weekends. But
well, you have something to look forward to after the show.
Exactly. But yeah, all the Manscaped stuff is awesome. And we do appreciate Manscaped continuing to sponsor the show. And I appreciate all you guys out there who've already ordered and tried the Manscaped products. And I hope you all have been happy with them. Again, go to manscaped.com, get 20% off and free shipping. Use that promo code BATSCAPED. Yeah, and apparently, in the beard kit, it has beard shampoo, beard conditioner, beard oil, beard balm. Wow. All right.
That's involved.
There's a lot of beard stuff in here. And again, like as someone who can't really grow a beard, I this one isn't really for me. All the other stuff is for me. But
I'll tell you what, give me 15 minutes. I'll grow one for you.
Okay, great.
I'm one of those people.
When I was younger, I was bummed that I did not grow a lot of facial hair. I did not grow a beard. Now I'm glad. I'm fine with it. I have no problem with it. So, all right. Well, thank you to Manscaped. Thank you to everybody who has ordered from Manscaped. Go to manscaped.com. Use that promo code. Get 20% off and get free shipping. It's just BATSCAPED. So, thank you to everybody. All right. Now, let's get to the main event, Jamie. I had a chat with Bruce Thomas a couple of nights ago, and I would love to share that with all of you, including you, Jamie. Yeah. Bruce Thomas, he played Batman in the OnStar commercials. He also has done quite a bit of DC voice work. And so we talk about all of that. So without further ado, let's go back and remember 20 plus years ago when Batman was gracing our TV sets selling OnStar. And we had a really awesome Batman to do that. Here's my conversation with Bruce Thomas.
Good evening, Batman.
Alfred.
I've stepped up safety in the Batmobile, sir.
Really?
Should a villain steal it, someone will track it. If your airbag goes off, an advisor will assist you. If you're stranded, satellites will help locate you.
And where have you put all these things?
Just press the OnStar button, sir.
Well done, Alfred.
My pleasure, sir.
OnStar, how can I help you, Batman?
All right, I'm very honored to welcome to the show someone we actually talked about relatively recently. In June, we did a whole episode diving back into the old OnStar Batman commercials. And in that episode, we talked about how much we liked the actor who played Batman, Mr. Bruce Thomas. And you heard on that episode, we were like, maybe we can reach out to him. And fortunately, Bruce is being very gracious, and he has joined us today to talk about his career and especially his time as Batman and in the DC universe. So welcome to Holy BatCast, Bruce.
Hey, thanks. Thanks for having me, Andy. Appreciate it. Hi, everybody.
We are happy to have you. But yeah, it's funny because we just did that big deep dive, and I don't know if you had a chance to listen. If not, it's all good. But me and my co-host Brendan and Preston, who both send their love, they were like, we all were like, man, he makes a great Batman. The voice is good. He looks great in the suit. And so I hope like even 20 plus years later, you've got people on the internet watching these commercials and going, man, what a great Batman.
That's, oh my God, that's it's like a dream come true for any actor to have longevity like that. That's pretty amazing. Pretty amazing. Although I have gotten, and by the way, it's not about the suit. It's not about the voice. It's just about the chin, Andy.
Yeah. And you have quite the distinguished chin, I will say.
But there is a story there. It's funny because I don't know if I've said this before in another podcast in another interview somewhere, and I don't remember where, but I don't get to talk about it much. But when I was cast back in, I guess it was, must have been 99 or 2000 somewhere, but it was Christmas season. And I had pretty much had the worst couple of years of my professional acting life. And I had a couple of kids. And so it was about time to change my direction. And so I went to be a car salesman, and I got some training to be a car salesman. A friend of mine had a Chevy dealership here in Los Angeles. And so I did that. I went through the training and I found out how to screw people over when you sell them cars.
Oh God.
So I went ahead and bought my black pants and my white shirt and was ready to go on the lot and start training to sell cars. And it was Christmas season. It was between Christmas and New Year's. And my agent gave me a call and said, "Are you in town?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm one of the few that's stuck around." So she said they have they're casting something for these major commercials. I can't tell you what it is, but go in and meet the director. His name is Andy Davis. He directed The Fugitive. So I went, wow, that's cool. But then at the same time, I was like, screw this, man. I'm out of this. This is the last thing I want right now. I've already decided to change my direction, and it was painful enough. And ironically at the time, and this gets back to my point of the story, I had a goatee at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I just decided to have a goatee. Now, if you're casting Batman, what's the most important thing you want to see when you meet somebody is their face, their chin.
Yeah.
I said, screw it. I don't give a crap. I just went in there and I talked to, so I met Andy Davis, shook his hand, and we did a couple of scenes. And I said, you know what? See you later. It's been fun. Great. Bye. Well, sure enough, like right after New Year's, they called and said, you have this. He loved you. And I just found it so ironic that the only part of my person that showed in that suit was my chin, and he didn't even get to see that, but he didn't care. He just cast me anyway.
Isn't that always how it goes, though? Like when you have a job interview and you don't care if you get it, that's when you always do the best.
That's the lesson I learned.
Yeah, it's always the case. So at what point between the phone call from your agent and meeting Andy Davis did you realize it was for Batman?
Well, I don't recall, actually. I
Okay.
must have known somewhere in there. I imagine Andy told me what this
Got
was
it.
because I had to do the scenes and stuff. So I don't actually remember what we did in the audition. I just, like I said, I was just in and out. I didn't care. I just left. And I mean, it was an honor to meet him. Don't get me wrong. I wasn't trying to be rude to him at all. I just didn't care. But as to your point, I mean, there's a lot of truth to that.
Yeah, always. Well, fortunately, I mean, it's funny you were looking to pivot your career, and now I look at your IMDb page and it is a mile long. So you've certainly been prolific over the years since then, because it's a lot of TV, a lot of voice work, a lot of series. Like you stay very busy, according to this, which is great.
I've been very, very fortunate. Yeah. According to that, they're a bunch of liars. No, I'm kidding. It's all good. It's all real. It's all real except the Birds of Prey, which I have to point out.
Oh, I was going to ask you about that anyway. So that's not the case?
And people have asked me, and I've debunked it years ago, but it hasn't hit the mainstream, and there's only a certain part of the universe that cares. But for some reason, IMDb loves to keep that credit on my page, and I've told them it's not true, and I've told everybody else it's not true. I don't know who played Batman in Birds of Prey, but it wasn't me.
Oh, very interesting. Well, there you go. But yeah, I guess when it's on IMDb, that's why you got to take some of it with a grain of salt.
Yeah. I mean, they're normally pretty good about it.
Yeah.
Just strange that they won't take it off.
Well, and I wonder if it was just because it was sort of in that same window when you were doing the commercials that
it definitely was, and it looks. I mean, the look is appropriate too. I mean, the time period. It all coincided.
Yeah. So were you a Batman fan?
Oh my God.
Okay.
I was an Adam West fan. Huge.
All right.
Fan. Yeah. I used to get home from school every day and I could not miss Batman. Are you kidding me? Boof, bam, biff. For those of you that don't know, those words appeared when Batman punched anybody. That was the old days. And oh my God, first of all, I have to say too, I love the movie. The Adam West movie of Batman was the best because it's so damn campy.
Yeah, it's so fun. Shark repellent bat spray.
Oh my God. I picked that day to disarm a bomb. And it's great lines.
So when you found out, you were auditioning for Batman, was there that little kid in you that got excited that you get to be Batman?
It was nuts, man. It was nuts. Andy, I can't even tell you what it felt like to be in that suit. It took me like an hour and a half, couple hours, first couple times, and then we got the hang of it to get me in the damn thing, because it comes in several pieces and it has to be bolted together. first they have to take your sizes, and they have. Well, let's backtrack. Like,
Yeah.
first of all, I didn't wear Michael Keaton's actual suit because he's about 5'8".
Right. Right.
I'm 6'2", so that wouldn't work. But they have Warner Brothers has this huge archived room. It's air conditioned, and I walked in there, and there were hundreds of bat suits hanging from the rafters.
Wow.
Yeah, they have to be hung so that they don't lose their shape, so they don't crease. And so it's just amazing. It's like a museum, and all these they have to make a million different versions of who's ever playing Batman, for all the martial artists, for all the regular stunt people, for the acrobats. Anybody that has to get in that suit has obviously a different size, because they have to fit to their body. Anyway, cut to they just mix and matched different versions of stunt suits, I guess. And I fit in one perfectly. So it took me hour and a half, 2 hours, like I said, to get in the damn thing. But once I was in that, oh my God, there's a reason that Batman has to turn his whole body to talk to somebody to his left or his right, because you can't move your neck independently from that suit. You have to move your entire body to refer to somebody to your left or your right. And but holy crap, I just felt like I could kick anyone's ass on this planet.
Nice. And so do you know which parts and pieces of the suits got put together? Looking at it, it looks very like Clooney. It looks like a lot of the Clooney pieces, but not sure how much you remember.
I don't know the difference. But recently I've heard people talk about the fact that it has nipples.
Yeah. Yep.
And that the Keaton suit didn't have nipples, but the Clooney suit did. So yeah, apparently it does.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because I mean, and also that was the film that was the most recent when, you did the commercials. And so it makes sense that would be in the best shape.
Yeah. Kilmer had already done his thing, and Clooney had
Right.
already done his thing. But I loved how they had the yellow insignia.
Yes.
That was just such a classic. I love that. And I love the fact that the particular Batmobile they use with the wings, that's just such an iconic shape for the Batmobile.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that they also had the yellow oval. I'm partial to that myself, and Clooney did not have the yellow oval. So what it looks like to us is like, it looks like they had, it was a Clooney suit, but then they painted in the yellow oval to make it look more like classic Keaton.
Yeah, I don't think they just painted. They had, I think they made it. I think they had this because it's a raised, the yellow emblem is a raised thing. So I think they had to glue that on there or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm so glad they did. It's just, I love it too. It just gives me goosebumps to see that. I love the Burton feel to it.
Yeah, for sure. And they did use the Burton Batmobile, as you mentioned, which is my favorite Batmobile. I don't think they've ever topped it, even though we've had great Batmobiles, but it's just so classic. And I told this story on the recent episode, but when I was in LA, this was a few years ago, and I went to the WB tour, the Batmobile still had the OnStar button inside the cockpit.
Wow. No
it was still in there, which is crazy. So it had to have been one of the ones that you used for the commercial. I don't know if you used the same one for each one, or if they put OnStar to a couple of them, because I didn't know if maybe different cars did different things or how that worked.
So you're saying I left my mark.
You did. Wow. and the true ones of us know it and see that OnStar, and we're like, oh yeah, that was quite a moment in time right there in 2000, 2002.
Yeah, it truly was. I mean, I got a lot of, this was at the early stages of social media. There wasn't, there weren't things like Twitter, obviously. There weren't things like Instagram, but there were websites. And so when these first came out, there was a lot of chatter from fans. They're like, "Oh my God, is this the guy? Is this the new guy? He's gonna take over from Kilmer? What's going on? What is this?" Yeah, but yeah, that would have been nice if there was a little grassroots social movement able to be done back then. Yeah, who knows? I mean, there might have been a little small mini wave of support for my doing something in the Batman world.
Well, we even mentioned that rewatching all the all six commercials. We're like, I mean, you make a great Batman, and we're like, if at the time, you're right. If there was social media, we'd have been like, make movies with this guy. He's great. He
Or at
looks
least
the
a
part. He's
series or
great in it.
something, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, there's no way I could be in a movie because they always, you have to be an A-list
I know, but
But
still something like.
something. Yeah. I mean, even if we, whatever, we're conjecturing, it's not worth it. But yeah. So anyway, my point was that there was a bunch of fans that were really positive, and the feedback was heard by me. So I really appreciate whoever did that way back then. I appreciate that. There was a lot of chatter about it, and it made me feel all warm and fuzzy.
Oh, that's great. I love to hear that then, and then, again, even now. It's so funny and random that, like, I felt like these commercials, they kind of, they aired, they had their time, but then they sort of went quiet. And then for some reason, over the past few months, I've been seeing them everywhere. And it's like they've had this new groundswell of popularity from like fan sites and things. And we did our episode, and I'm like, wow, it's just so funny. It's, I don't know what it is, just something in the air that, like, the fans decided, oh, we're gonna bring these up and celebrate these all over again.
Yeah, it's been amazing. There's I have to give a shout out to an Instagram, Burton's Gotham.
Yes, yeah,
is a huge supporter of everything Burton, obviously, as is as the name goes. So and whoever's running that, he or she found all this, and they've been promoting all of this and bringing it to a lot of fans' attention. So I've had a certain little bit of a groundswell of feedback going on right now, and I'm so grateful.
Well, I noticed that. I follow them on Instagram, and we scheduled this chat, and in the past few days they keep posting the commercials, and I'm like, do they know? Are they psychic? It's just weird that, like,
to be fair, I have to be honest. I reached out to them and gave them the latest, or the one commercial that I forgot to put out, which was the very first one with Michael Goff. So I reached out to them and said, here it is, because there've been a lot of people saying, where the hell's Michael Goff? I thought you said Michael Goff was in these. And I said, oops, I forgot to post that one. So we posted it, and again, they've just been so supportive, and I've gotten a lot of nice followers from them since, and this resurgence. That's the beautiful part of the internet. Amongst all the horrible parts of it, shines through right now, and it's just it's a great thing.
Yeah,
don't
absolutely.
think it goes unnoticed, people.
Right. All right. Shout out to Burton's Gotham, it's Burton's Gotham, right? Because they post all kinds of fun stuff. Back to the suit. You said it took hour and a half or 2 hours to get it on. Was it hard to move in? Did you have to
No.
do a little practice, or once it's on, it was a little easier?
Once it was on, well, first of all, you have to get used to sweating like a pickle. And I lost probably, shooting day, I would lose many pounds of sweat weight. But the fortunate part was I had Alex Daniels, who was my stunt coordinator, who worked on all the films, and he knew everything about how Batman moves, how he swirls his cape, how he jumps into the Batmobile, how he uses his weapons, that there's a certain way to do it, certain way to not to do it. You have to be poetic when you're Batman. If you reach behind you grab your utility belt to pull out the Batarang, you've got to do it in a certain way that's fluid for the camera. And he was the whole reason that it looks as good as it does as far as my movements go, physically. He was a godsend, and I give all credit to him. It was great. But yeah, to answer your question, I was able to actually not fight, but do any movements related to Batman style stuff. It was pretty freeing to do that.
Okay, that's great. And I we do know that Alex Daniels did a lot of the stunt work. Were there any that you got to do, or some of the favorite things that you got to do within those commercials?
I wish I was able to drive the Batmobile, because when I got in that sucker and they fired it up, it's got I guess the guys at Campbell Ewald told me, the advertising agency told me it was a 444 Hemi engine. It's a big ass engine. And I was there. They showed me. They fired up the flame that shot out the back. That's actually works. You know, the flame shoots out like 15 feet. It was incredible to see. But they wouldn't let me drive it down the back lot. And I was like, come on, man. They wouldn't let me do it. But yeah, no, it was all good.
You mentioned the Michael Goff one, which was the first commercial. Was it? Do you remember? Like, was that done separate from your footage, or did you get a chance to meet him?
Unfortunately, he was ill at the time.
Yeah.
I think he passed shortly after that. So the plan was for him to come out to Los Angeles and for us to work together. But no, he had to do it remotely from England where he lives.
Okay. That's what I figured because he's on the back computer, but you never know.
Did that.
But I just still love that continuity. The fact that they got him to do it. It's so beautifully ties it with the films. I love that
Me
so
too.
much.
It was that right there was the perfect bridge from film to television.
Yeah. And we talked about how these commercials, there's such a happy medium between the Burton films and the Schumacher films. They kind of take elements from both and meld them together into this very pure cinematic version of the character and of Gotham.
Yeah. The Schumacher films make me laugh. They're just so campy. They're
madness.
They push it. He pushed it so hard to that end of the spectrum. It was I mean, Clooney even talks about it. I happen to know Georgia at one point in our lives, but actually during that time we knew each other.
Oh, really? Did you tell him I'm Batman?
Yeah. Whenever we were in the same room together, we would say, well, everyone's protected now. There's two of us.
I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's a bond. That's a very small fraternity.
It really is. It really is. But he's the first to admit, he said, very nearly personally was responsible for taking down the Batman franchise.
Yeah,
but he was being coy, but because it was Schumacher's vision for them to do all that. But he was kind of making fun of his own role in it.
Yeah, he's always had a very good sense of humor about it. You know, he takes it on stride.
Sense of humor. Yeah, he's good about that.
Yeah. So what about the like there was a commercial with the Joker and one with the Penguin and one with the Riddler. What do you remember about those? Like, did you work with those actors? Like a lot of, I think specifically, it seemed like you were on screen with the Riddler at the same time, but the other ones were edited in a way where I didn't know how much interaction you all had.
100%. Brian Stepanek played the Riddler. And he's a great comedic actor. He's done a lot of series work and he's like I said, a comedic actor. That's this. And so he was perfect to be cast as the Riddler. I did not know him before then, but I've stayed friends with him at least for a while. We've kind of lost touch lately, but I'm a big fan of his. He's got a perfect sensibility to play the Riddler. Curtis Armstrong played the Joker. And did not know him, did not really, we were on the same set, passed each other, said hi, but we didn't work together in the same scene. Same with the Penguin, and I don't recall who the actor was that played the Penguin, but again, we didn't really do the same scenes because he was in his own helicopter, I was in the Batmobile, and just didn't cross paths.
That's it. You were in the car for most of these because OnStar, except for the Riddler one, which is my favorite one because it feels like a mini movie. It's like in a minute, so much happens in that minute, and you actually get to do some fighting with the Riddler and his goons.
Yeah, that was cool. That scene where he opens the vault in the commercial. It's payday, boys.
Yes.
And then I reached behind my utility. That's what I was referring to before, and did this poetic sort of swing of the cable that entwines his legs and pulls him down. Such a heroic move. I love it.
It looks great. And then like knowing that you were going in, how much time did you have to prepare? Like, was it one of those things where you like had to work out for the role, or how did you prepare to do the shoot?
Hey, I work out every day, man.
Well, I assume, but I didn't know if you were like, oh, it's Batman, I got to put in more time or something like that.
Yeah. No, as far as physically working out goes, no preparation, but, I didn't have to, but, trying to remember what I did as far as that goes. I'm a kind of actor who the more I know, the better. So I'm sure I did. I mean, I'm sure I did a whole bunch of work that going into it, leading up to it. I my favorite Batman was Michael Keaton. So
Mm-hmm.
I think he had the perfect blend of intensity, seriousness, depressive kind of um, space that he lived in because of his parents dying and because of the vengeance that he was going after these guys.
Mm-hmm.
I like the darkness that he brought to it, but he's also by nature a campy, funny guy. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that in the DC Comics world, that is a perfect blend. I remember when Keaton was first cast, this was way before I got, obviously, way before I got any of this. But I remember thinking, Michael Keaton as Batman? Are you kidding me? Ugh. And then when it came out, and to this day, he's my favorite one
Mm-hmm.
because he applied himself in such a way that, like I said, it fed into the vengeance of it. He understood what Batman is going after. And at the same time, how he plays Bruce Wayne in this kind of charming, comedic, lighthearted, charming with the girls kind of way.
Mm-hmm.
He's my favorite. I think there are several things. I think Clooney, as we spoke about, Schumacher pushed Clooney to the point of being too campy, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think Christian Bale went too far the other way, went too far method in the fact that he ends up looking like a deranged, or for me, personally, this is my own personal opinion, more of a, there's too much anger, like there's too much deranged, deep-rooted psychopathy going on with him,
Yeah.
which is typical for him in the way he works, as far as I understand it. He goes deep, and so
Mm-hmm.
he went that way. And so I still go back to Keaton. I think he hit the perfect medium place for it.
Yeah.
And that's what I sort of patterned it, my performance after. That's a
Yeah,
long
and that's what I was going to ask. Is that where you took your inspiration?
Yeah, I think so. And George and I are very similar with our voices and the way we are. He's from the Midwest. I'm from the Midwest. We're super similar in that way. And I think if he just wasn't pushed in that direction, he could have been a very effective Batman.
Yeah, I think that's what most fans agree is like George Clooney would have been a great Batman. It's just the movie he was in and what he was asked to do didn't really allow him to be.
Mm-hmm.
So when you shot these commercials, was it like all one shoot, one fell swoop, or did you kind of come and go over a series of months?
There were 3 done every year.
Oh, okay.
There were 3 years in a row that we did this.
Okay.
Yeah. So we did, so that was it. We did 3 at a time, and then they cut those up into the various versions of it. But that was the idea. The last of them being the Penguin, and then Brooke Burns playing Vicky Vale.
Yeah.
Which was, she was fantastic. She was great. She was such a, oh my God, she was such a sexy person, sexy woman. And but at the same time, I don't know, I connected with her. I remember coming in on a day off just so I could read opposite. She was doing her scenes, but I wasn't in the scenes. And I remember coming in on a day off just to read opposite her. And I wasn't asked to, but the client really appreciated me being there. I just felt that it was important for her side of her phone call to me to have me actually there with her so we could have some chemistry.
Yeah. So that was the last one you did. And that's another one that is so impressive. Just the scope of this commercial with that Batmobile, racing down the streets and the explosions and the helicopter.
The production value was, they spared no expense. They went for it. And it was all in the back lot at Warner Brothers, the same exact set where all the films are shot. And they just went for it, man. And it shows. Yeah,
definitely. Did they set up some old stuff that was in storage, or was it just the backlot, in certain parts?
I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know how that all worked.
Well, yeah, because just watching it, and that was a question we had, is we're like, it looks like it's still set up from one of the films, but at this point, it had been 3 years since a film, so it was
It
just
looked to
curious
me
as to.
like it looked to me like sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. It
No,
looked
it's
to me
okay.
like when I was there, it looked to me like they just said, "Okay, do what you have to do to make this look right." And they just gave them freedom to go through the Warner Brothers lot and find all the props and everything. So I think they just went for it.
Yeah, definitely. And were you there during like the big chase scenes? Or like to see some of that stuff happening?
Yeah, I stuck around for a little bit. I was able to see Alex do his kind of thing. There's one where um, I forget which one it's called, but I'm up on a rooftop,
Yeah.
and Batman calls to have his doors unlocked before he jumps down from the roof into the Batmobile, and Alex was doing the jumping and flying through the air and down to the Batmobile and landing in it and everything. So I got to see some of that, and I got to see some of the like the wet pavement in those city street scenes, escapes, and see the Batmobile like peeling out and flames shooting out the back of it, flying down the street. And it was, man, I mean, going back to your question before, as a kid, I'm like I'm talking to myself as a 10-year-old going, can you believe you're this guy?
Yeah.
Oh my God. You've taken your love for Adam West and gone a step further. And I'm just so grateful.
That's no, that's awesome. I'm sure it's a pinch me moment, like
Absolutely.
sitting in the Batmobile or wearing the suit and standing there over, over the Penguin after you defeated him, and it's got to be surreal, but so cool.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. Gives me goosebumps right now, just talking about it again.
That's great. And then, according to the internet, they set up the Batcave at the Queen Mary. Is that true?
They did. Yep.
So,
Well, they set up the whole Batcave because it was one of those situations where it was made of material that needed to be, it was temperature sensitive apparently, and so the Queen Mary was the biggest space in Los Angeles that they could find. Well, I can't say that for a fact. Whatever, somebody else will answer that question. But they ended up at the Queen Mary because it was a huge space that was air conditioned, and so they stored it there.
Mhm.
And so when it came time to shoot, they just said, "Well, let's shoot it there." So we went down, and they actually booked me at the Queen Mary. So I stayed
Oh,
over,
nice.
which is a haunted ship, by the way. If
Hey,
anybody ever wanted to stay there, you can go down there. Oh, I don't know if it still exists today, but you could have and at that time you could book a room at the Queen Mary at port and stay overnight, which I did. And my God, I heard so many pictures of there were so many stories, and I saw pictures as well of ghosts in the hallway, people talking about their experiences there. But anyway, back to the point. So I go to the front gate to drive on to the to that dome where the Batcave is stored to work in the morning at 6 o'clock in the morning. Drive up to the gate. The guard gate says, "Let me see your ID." So I gave him my ID. It says Bruce, of course. That's my name. And he, knew why I was there, and he's like, "Taking your role a little seriously, aren't you?"
yeah.
Yeah, I am Bruce. I am Bruce, and I'm here to play Batman. But bum.
Bruce Thomas Wayne.
Yeah, I
Please
know.
tell me.
Right?
Please tell me your middle name is Wayne, because that would be perfect. Bruce Wayne Thomas.
No,
No. Okay.
But
Well,
I was told that I was the first actor to have both the first name of Bruce and the last name of his father. Of course, there's only a handful of actors that have ever played Batman. So
yeah, it was meant to be. Oh God, what was I had something, I think I lost it. It was something about, I think, the Queen Mary, and
I hate when that happens.
that's okay. That's what years ago I stayed at the Queen Mary, and can I tell you, I was so disappointed I did not have any ghostly encounters.
I didn't either.
I was very sad. I was like,
Actually,
what? What's
you
the
know
point
what?
of staying at a haunted ship?
I know, right? That's the thing you need. Actually,
was
when I
cool.
was staying there, Alex Daniels was also staying there, the stunt guy I was talking about before.
Yeah.
And the night before, he said, "Dude, I know how to get into the bowels of the ship. Do you want to go down there and check it out?" Like he was all for like he's that he's like, let's
Nice.
go exploring in the bowels of the ship. Let's go down where nobody goes. I know I found a doorway. And I was like, I wimped out. I was like, I don't think so. I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. I wish I would
Could have been
though.
your chance. Yeah.
I mean, I was some years later, I was flying on a plane, sitting next to a guy, and you know, as you do on a plane, you start talking about blah 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 blah. Came around to this, and I mentioned the Queen Mary. So he said,
Mm.
oh, dude," and this guy was from Sweden. So he pulls out. He goes, "You want to see something?" He pulled out his phone. Here's a picture that I took in the hallway of the Queen Mary, and I looked at it, and down the hallway, there's this translucent figure coming out of a room in a nightcap and a nightgown crossing the thing. And this is, I know everybody else is thinking that, yeah, somebody created a picture. But this was years before anything, like people were doing that online. It's before it was common to do that. This was like 15 years ago. And I even said to him point blank, I said, anybody, like people can, like you didn't create this. This is not bullshit. He said, I swear to God, this is a real photograph. And in fact, I took it down to the front desk at the Queen Mary and I said, can I show you something? And the clerk behind the desk said, is it another ghost picture? Because we've seen a million of them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, right? So I didn't see one like you, but they're there.
That is so cool. Awesome. So you did this a couple years in a row, which is cool. And do you remember catching it on TV for the first time and what that felt like?
I think if not the first time, it was soon after. These were featured on the Super Bowl. Like one of the first times I ever saw it. If not,
really, I don't think I realized that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Super Bowl spots. So, and it was a huge deal. I remember being at a friend's house who's actually a feature film director, pretty famous name. And we were with some friends. And I knew it was going to be on the Super Bowl. And then it came on and everybody's like, what the fuck? I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Who your audience is, but holy hell, this is huge. And I just happened to say to my friend, the director, that's me.
Wow.
Yeah. Didn't get me anywhere. I wasn't in one of his films, but whatever. That's another story.
Yeah.
But no, so they were featured on the Super Bowl.
Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, like you said, spared no expense. And you can tell just from watching the commercials that, yeah, these are amazing. And again, as Batman fans, it's like you want a few minutes of just good, pure Batman content. Turn on the OnStar commercials.
Right. Yeah, it's true. Thank you.
Do you have a favorite one that you remember making or seeing even?
I think the first one is probably one of my favorite ones. What is that noise?
That's my daughter. Don't worry about her. She's just
That's
running
your
around.
daughter. I love that.
Yeah, she makes guest appearances on the show now and then. She is 18 months.
Oh my God, I love it. I
Yeah.
love it. My kids, but I remember that age for sure.
Oh yeah, it's a fun one.
Yeah, I think the first one is my favorite. Just the composition of it is just kind of perfect with Michael Goff, and it shows the Batmobile, like it has this surround, like the camera revolves around the Batmobile in the Batcave, and there's the bats, and then I swoop down and talk to Alfred, and then get in the car, and it's like, he's telling me about all these things I can do with the car, and I'm saying, well, how do I do that? And he's saying, it's the OnStar button, sir. And it just seems to me a perfectly constructed commercial, and all of that in 30 seconds blows my mind.
Yeah, for sure.
And then the production value of the ones we talked about before, the Penguin ones, the Vicky Vale ones, they amped it up as far as production value goes, and then it ended up being like just like scenes from the action part of the movies. So it's a toss up between the first one and all of that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think we said like the things that you get to see the Batmobile do in these commercials is just as impressive and arguably more impressive than what we saw in the films.
Yeah, you
Like
think so?
yeah, you really get to see it like open up on the streets, and yeah, the action sequences are, really as cinematic as they can be for these.
Yeah, the lighting was so great, and yeah, like you said, the explosions are timed right. I mean, if you have to pack all of that stuff into a 30-second spot or a 60-second spot, some of them ended up being 60 seconds because they're epic
Mhm.
commercials.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, but every frame counts, and so the editors must have. I give hats off to the editors. They must have had a field day coming up with a way to showcase this in the most explosive way, to coin a phrase.
Yeah. So, in addition to playing Batman, you also have a lot of DC voice work on
Yeah,
your resume.
yeah,
You were Commissioner Gordon a lot, actually, in
three times. Yeah,
Yeah, Batman Hush, Bad Blood, and Son of Batman.
yeah.
And then you also were in, I think it was Green Lantern. Yeah, Green Lantern Emerald Knights, Justice League War.
Where I played Atrocitus.
Oh, very good. You were General Zod in something too. Oh, Gods and Monsters.
General Zod, yes. Spreading my seed throughout the universe.
Uh, well, can we get a little Gordon too? As long as we're
Commissioner Gordon, yeah. I mean, Commissioner Gordon. I mean, he's the way I played him. He was kind of close to Batman, which is
Mhm.
like I went kind of old school cop. Commissioner Gordon. He's kind of like old school
Yeah.
cop. He's a little more stoic and staticky as opposed to Batman, but he kind of lives in that vocal range for me. He's like a tough guy. He's like Batman's got a little more charm.
Mhm.
He's cool. He's easygoing. But Commissioner Gordon's right to the point. This is this and this is that.
There might be one other, but you might you might be one like the only or one of two actors who have played both Batman and Commissioner Gordon.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
Oh,
Yeah.
Ben McKenzie. That's who I was thinking. I'm like, I know there's someone else. Ben McKenzie was Gordon in live action, and he did the voice of Batman. You've got
Great.
him flipped. Batman in live action. So that's an even more niche claim to fame there.
Isn't
But
that cool? Yeah.
it's so cool.
I'm
It's
so
amazing.
lucky to do what I do. And isn't it funny? Isn't it ironic, kind of? To me, it's ironic anyway, that, yeah, I do Batman first, and then I end up being in all of these DC Comics films, like a dozen of them, and then I don't do anything in the Marvel world, which is kind of like, I don't know. I don't know how that works.
It's just, yeah.
I don't know, typecast persona, the person I am. I don't know how that works. The only person I have to thank for being in all those DC Comics is Andrea Romano, who was a voice director for Warner Brothers at the time. She's now retired, and she from day one would just call me up and go, "Hey, you want to come and play? I have a film role for you." You know, I never had to audition for her. I just did like
Wow.
12 films or something like that. It was a bunch of them, and yeah, it was just, I just walked right into the DC universe and was there, and she loved what I did, and again, grateful as all hell.
That's awesome. And yeah, she's a legend, especially
Yeah.
for DC fans, because she did so much of the animated DC stuff.
Right.
Was any of that like, was it like, oh, he played Batman, or was it just a coincidence that you happened to do both?
You'd have to ask her. I don't
Yeah.
know if that was in her mind. I tend to doubt it. Well, I can't say that. I can't say that at all. She may have had that in mind and went, "Yep, love what he does. He's a good actor. So let's just have him in doing whatever he wants to do." I don't know. She'd have to answer that.
Yeah. But I love that. I love it's like, oh, your relationship with DC has just continued, and
Yeah.
until what was the last one? A few years ago? Hush. 2019.
Hush. Yeah. I got to work with Bruce Timm on Gods and Monsters, which was amazing. Bruce Timm was an incredible visionary.
Mm-hmm.
I got to sit with him in the room while they were while other people were working on the other side of the glass behind the microphone. I was sitting in the control room with Bruce Timm next to him, and I'm going to have to tell you, he was constantly taking cocktail napkins on the counter where the control board was, and he would sit there with the napkins and with a marker, and he was continuously drawing these beautiful DC Comics character women figures, and
Mm-hmm.
then he was started to do Batman. In fact, he did a page where it was just different Batman cowls and faces and the Penguin. And I said, "Do you mind if can I get you to sign that? Can I have that one?" He goes, "Sure, here you go." And I as he was doing the cocktail napkins bit, I was like, I sitting next to him, I go, "You can't stop, can you?" He was like, "No, it's I'm I can't stop. I'm like, I'm haunted. I can't. I continuously. I can't stop drawing characters."
That's like his version of fidgeting, like a little fidget
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
Is Yeah, that's awesome. So you still
They're
have
all
the Bruce
beautiful.
Timm napkin?
I don't think I have a napkin, no, but I do have that page.
Oh, the page. Sorry, yeah, yeah. And what's drawn on that one?
I think I think it's on my Instagram. Let me look. I think it is.
Oh,
I think it's on my Instagram. It's there it is. Oh, it's a James Tucker sketch. That's the one I kept on Instagram. Yeah, if you scroll down near the bottom,
mm-hmm.
there's a James Tucker sketch, and it was.
Oh,
You see the blue one?
I'm getting there, but
Okay, there's a light blue one. It's all light blue, and
oh,
there's
yep.
yeah. Look at
That
that.
is so cool.
Joker, Two-Face, Penguin, and Batman. And he was just sketching. I said, "You mind if I have that?" He goes, "No, go ahead."
That is awesome. So yeah, folks, anybody on Bruce Thomas's Instagram, which is Mr. Period Bruce Thomas. Yeah. From a couple years ago, you posted this awesome sketch. It's Batman, Two-Face, Penguin, and Joker by James Tucker. How cool.
Right?
Yeah, that's awesome. So everybody out there, at least follow Bruce, and you can see some cool stuff. And yeah, like you've got, you're tagged, or no, you just you reposted the that first commercial just a couple
Yeah.
days ago.
Yeah.
All right, very nice.
Yeah.
Well, very cool. So I mean, you are part of the Batman DC legacy, especially, as you've continued to revisit the universe over the years. But very few people have gotten to play Batman officially on screen. And another question for you is, again, it's one of those blurbs on Wikipedia, is do you remember any direction you guys were given by DC as far as the character or anything?
No. I remember having the official stamp of approval from DC when I was first cast in these on-camera things. They had to approve it. But aside from that, no, I got no notes.
Okay.
Yeah. You'd have to ask Andrew Davis or
All
Vince
right.
Ward if they got any of those notes. I'm sure they did, but I did not personally.
Yeah. The one thing it said that DC made it clear that Batman always has to catch the bad guy, so they had to make sure that they resolved anything with the villains, and that Batman always wins, which I thought was a fun little note.
Right. Yeah, that's true. Batman always wins. He's a superhero.
But now you are part of that exclusive club of live action Batman in an official sense. So how does that feel? And how does it feel that, again, 20 plus years later, people are posting it on social media, and it's, gets thousands of views on YouTube, and your time as Batman continues to live on?
Just you saying that, is blows away this little kid's mind. I'm so grateful. I really am. I'm no BS. I'm grateful. And that's all I can say. I mean, I obviously would have liked to have done a little bit more. We always think that as performers, and maybe I will. Who knows? I don't know if I'll be asked to come climb back into that universe somehow, some way. I'll tell you this. There was a point. I do a lot of for the fans that don't know. I do a lot of video game voices as well, and that's how I've been making my primary living for the last 10 years or so. After I last did a series called Kyle XY, that ended, and pretty much voice work is what I've been doing. I was going to say, this was about, what was it about? I don't know, it was 7, 8 years ago. I had done huge characters in big video games like Master Chief in Halo and um, Adler in Call of Duty. But so I started this project where I was going to be a 60-year-old Bruce Wayne. It was a video game
Oh,
by the guys that made Arkham Knights. And I was cast. And so we started the sessions where I was going to be a 60-year-old Bruce Wayne, beat to hell, had been in a recluse for the last 20 years, had a leg that didn't work, just beat up. And he comes out of hiding to kind of mentor this young 25-year-old Batman, played by Josh Keaton at the time, voice-wise. And we started doing those sessions. And then the video game was shelved. And it just, I mean, it was a huge deal. They were going to have 80 villains. They were going to bring back villains like Great White,
oh,
who had
wow.
only been seen in comic books. They had this whole shelf of things that they were going to bring into that game, and it never happened. I was so bummed out. I don't know what happened. I just something. I don't know. Maybe it was. I don't know. I couldn't speculate. But that was a big loss for us, both Josh and I.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's interesting. But I mean, it goes back to your point of like, you just never know when you're going to be called
Yeah, they keep
back,
coming up with
right?
fresh ideas to reinvent, the whole idea of the series and the storylines. And so, yeah. As long as you're alive, there's an option of you being pulled back in.
Yeah, I mean, Michael Keaton just played Batman again.
Exactly, right?
Yeah, so I
Oh,
mean,
so
you never
great.
say never.
That was so great to see him. I mean, I didn't like the movie at all, but to see him do that was just incredible. What a great throwback.
Yeah, he was so good, and it was nice to see it. So maybe this game could come back, or you never know what people are working on, and
You
you are
never
part of the
know.
Batman family.
You never know. That's the magic of showbiz. That's why we love it. That's why we hate it.
Right, exactly. And you mentioned your video game work, and so looking at your Instagram, I saw a bunch of like mocap stuff. So I assume that all is part of that.
Absolutely. Yeah, I do a ton of it.
That's really cool.
Mostly for Master Chief in Halo, and then I do some for Call of Duty as well, playing Russell Adler.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, I love working on the mocap stage. It's great. The technology is incredible, and it pushes you to be so inventive, because the motion capture, for those that don't know, the motion capture stage is just a white box. It's surrounded by 300 cameras who are aimed at you, getting all the data that your body is transmitting, because you've got all these little dots all over you. And so you don't have any props or anything. It's not like a live action set where you're in the environment of Bruce Wayne, or in this case, Halo, a spaceship out in the future. It's all in your head. So yeah, you understand where the console is on the ship. You understand where the other parts of the ship are as you're working, but they're not even there. So it forces you to be like a little kid when you're making make believe when you're little, and saying, "Oh, let's just play this. I'm this," in your living room, and "Oh, this is that. This is this. This is cool. Let's go. Yeah, hey." And so I get to be like a little kid on this stage and just make believe all day. It's incredible.
That's awesome. It's so fun. Well, very cool. Anything else about your time as Batman or in DC that, other fun memories that you can share as far as, looking back at your time in the cowl?
Speaking of your kid, I just remember my kids were little too. My son was, I think, probably around the age of your daughter. And my daughter at the time was probably 4 years older than that. So she was 4, 5.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got pictures of them in Batman's arms on the set.
Oh, that's great.
So that's a precious memory for me and for them, and that's a really cool thing.
No, that's
so
awesome.
Cool. Yeah.
Well, you are on Twitter, X. I still getting used to that, as well as Instagram.
At least for now, I'm threatening to get off it. I just don't like the whole idea behind it. I think it's too ugly. I think it's too political. I think it's too everything. I'm there, but I don't generally react, or I don't generally even read anything on Twitter. So I do most of my living on Instagram.
That's okay. That's probably better. And I'm honestly the same. I go on to like post the new episodes and stuff like that, but yeah, I try to not engage as much because you're right. It just gets it gets ugly and stressful. And who needs that? Life can be stressful enough.
Yep. Peace out, guys. Peace.
So is it the same on all places? Is it Mr. Bruce Thomas on both, or
I think on X it's real Bruce Thomas, meaning well, in the way I spelled it is REEL, like a demo reel.
Awesome. All right. Yes. And is there anything else that people should look out for, or that you want to plug?
I just came out with I just announced that I was in Starfield, so that's kind of cool. It's a huge game that's just been announced and just out now this week.
Awesome.
That was a lot of fun, and it's an open world game. You'll find my voice everywhere in the universe there. So that was fun. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Bruce, it truly was a pleasure. And I do hope you know that, like, you know, when we talked about these commercials in June, we sung your praises, and we think that you were so good. You looked great in the cowl. You were an awesome Batman. And I'm just so glad that we were able to connect and you made the time to talk about it today. So, but on behalf of me and my co-hosts and all the listeners at home, we are very appreciative, and just know that you've got a lot of fans out here for you as a person and as Batman.
Andy, I could not be more grateful to you and your fans, and to your crew, and to your co-hosts. Thank you so much. This means the world to me too. So appreciate it.
Of course. And yeah, my co-hosts Jamie, Brendan, and Preston, they all send their love. So just want you to know. All right. Well, thank you again for taking the time, and we really do appreciate it.
Cheers.
OnStar now offers voice access to internet news, stocks, and email.
Riddler.
Virtual advisor.
Get email.
Riddle me this. What do a river and money have in common?
The bank. Get my business news.
Gotham City Bank closed early today for its stockholders' dinner.
It's payday, boys!
Not today.
Get him!
Voice-activated internet service from OnStar.
Huge thank you again to Bruce. Again, I really, really do appreciate the time, and it was just great chatting with him. Super awesome, and it is crazy. I love the fact that, like, he was kind of ready to move on from acting, and just at that moment, he got the gig as Batman. It was meant to be. It was written in the stars. It was written in the Gotham night sky, and you just never know. So, yep, really, really awesome to chat with him, and a big thank you to Bruce. So everybody out there, yeah, go back, watch those commercials, take a little trip back in time 2000s, and or go watch one of those animated movies. Watch Hush, and you get to hear Bruce's voice. So big thank you to Bruce, and I hope you guys that enjoyed that, because I certainly enjoyed having that conversation. But let's move on to another Batman. It is time for us to review the next episode of the animated series, The Batman. Well into season 2 now, third episode of season 2, even though Max says it's still season 1.
I was going to say, it depends on where you're watching it, what season you're on.
That's always the case. Always the case with these damn things. Anyway, this is, according to Wikipedia, this is episode 3 of season 2. This is Fire and Ice, the team up between Mr. Freeze and Firefly. It was directed by Sam Liu and written by Joseph Kerr. Notice anything about that name? Joe Kerr? Joe
Ah.
I'm
like, not caffeinated enough. I was too slow to catch that.
That's okay. I'm like, is that? I have to look up and see if that's his real name or if that's like a alias or something.
That's pretty solid.
I know. I saw that in the opening credits, and I was like, just Joker? Anyway, this one aired on May 28th of 2005. And as I said on the last episode, it seems like in season 2, they're really having fun with teaming up villains, which I am all for. I'm a big fan of that anyway. So Mr. Freeze and Firefly have teamed up here, and it's a really harsh winter. It's like 100-year winter in Gotham, very snowy, very cold. I know I love Gotham in the snow. Jamie, you a fan?
As long as I don't have to feel the cold for myself, it's fine.
Yeah, I think it's aesthetically pleasing. So you get Batman running into Firefly wearing his winter outfit, which I also love when they write in the different suits into actual stories. And so I appreciate that he was wearing the winter wear. I think, didn't he created that for the original Mr. Freeze episode?
Could be.
I believe.
I don't know. We get out of the rhythm of doing these on a regular basis, and somehow slips my mind.
That's okay. Well, we're trying to get back to it,
Yeah.
especially when there's not anything like huge and earth shattering. So Firefly and Mr. Freeze have teamed up. I'll be honest. I don't know what they were after. It's like they were going to freeze the city, but I don't know why Firefly wanted to do that. That was unclear to me, and I don't know if it was unclear.
Firefly was doing it because he was being paid to do it.
Okay, I was like,
Freeze
I don't know if
doing it because that's just his goal.
That's what Mr.
Life.
Freeze does. Yeah, I just was like, is it just because I'm not awake fully and I'm watching it and I'm having my coffee and it's a little fuzzy? But anyway, they've teamed up. They've got big plans, and Bruce Wayne is throwing this big anti-Batman charity gala with the police because the police are still after Batman. So it's really a very smart way to throw the suspicion off him is, head up the anti-Batman group. So he's throwing this big gala. Mr. Freeze and Firefly are up to no good. They end up freezing the entire gala of almost every police officer in Gotham. And this whole time, it's very obvious that, like, okay, Bruce has his public persona, but the public perception of Batman is very negative, especially with the police. And so after they all get frozen, Bruce manages to escape, turn into Batman, defeat Firefly and Mr. Freeze, not before they end up at each other's throats, which I thought was a lot of fun. They were partners until they weren't, and then they were going after each other, but Batman brings them both down. And when it happens and he unfreezes everyone at the gala, they realize that Batman is the one who saved them. And so instead of the get the Batman, he gets a nice little round of applause. He actually gets some respect from everyone except for the chief. So it's a nice little PR moment for Batman where the public perception of him is kind of shifting a bit. So, Jamie, what did you think of Fire and Ice?
I really enjoyed this one. You know, the conversation around this series that I have not watched much of to this point, excuse me, has always been from people who have watched it. You know, this thing really finds its footing at a certain point and elevates itself. And I feel like we've definitely reached that point in the last few episodes. This is no exception. I really enjoyed this. I feel like a little bit of the plot / dynamic of the villain team up, just a little bit. And I'm not saying this is an homage or copying or anything, but it just had a little bit of that Batman Forever kind of a feel to it.
Mm-hmm.
Like a little bit of the play between the zany Riddler and the darker Two-Face, you know, the zany Firefly and the darker Mr. Freeze, who still likes to throw out ice puns, which apparently is just going to be a Mr. Freeze thing for the rest of our time on this planet. It's what's the word I want to use? I don't know. Too early in the morning for me to think of something deep in the vocabulary, but the dynamic of everything that's done in this, I think is really solid. You know, it moves at a really good pace. You know, you kind of get rolling pretty well. It starts off good action to it. Batman chasing down Firefly and figuring out what's going on. I'll just cut to it. Two things. Number one, I can't figure out the chief. I can't figure out if they're trying to play him for comic relief or if they're just trying to make him completely unlikable as the perspective of the audience. Obviously, we're watching it because we love Batman and this guy doesn't, so we're supposed to boo and hiss at him. But whichever direction they're going, I feel like it's not solidified. Because if I can't figure out if he's just supposed to be a jerk or if he's supposed to be funny, I don't know if I'm caring for how that portrayal is going on there. So we'll see what happens moving forward. But so far, not really in on the whole chief and how he's handling things there. But
I feel like it's both, honestly. Like, because last episode, I don't know if you watched the Riddler episode, which is
I did. I actually watched it this morning before I watched this one.
Oh, okay.
I realized I was an episode behind.
So I mean, I think that kind of explains your confusion, because in the Riddler episode, he was very much played for laughs. He wasn't here. Here, it was just played as an antagonist who's someone who wants to bring down Batman. So you're right. Like, it depends on the episode and what they want to get out of it. But I think it's just having that whatever threat of the actual police, who are also not on Batman's side yet until this is sort of a turning point episode. And so I think that's the idea, is it's really what that is. But because of the riddled episode, he was just sort of a moron and couldn't figure out any of the riddles, no matter how simple they were. I think it was more comedic at that point.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe he'll find his footing moving forward, or maybe he'll just kind of fade away into obscurity.
I mean, at a certain point, Gordon has to take over, right?
You would think. But this show does like to play things differently enough that you just never know.
That's
we'll
true.
See what happens.
And I'll be honest, I don't remember. It's been a few years since I've watched it. I don't remember.
I've never watched it, so we'll figure it out together. But anyway, the ending of this episode is certainly in the conversation of, if not actually, my favorite thing that I've seen in this series so far. Like, Batman swinging up on that ledge and landing there, and he's telling the people to get him, and they shine the light up there on him, and he draws the cowl over his face, and he's kind of silhouetted on the building behind him. And then one of the officers begins to clap for him, and then everybody does, and then Batman just has that really brief facial expression of self-satisfaction or appreciation in that moment. I thought that whole bit at the end was really fantastic.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think the ending was awesome, and it really makes the episode, it elevates the episode, because he looks great in that moment. And yeah, seeing the turn of the tide towards him in that moment is really nice. And yeah, it's a great moment. So I completely agree with you there.
And I mean, watching that really makes me think in the next episode, they're going to deputize him like they did in the 66 series.
I don't, maybe not yet, but okay. All right. You never know. So I really liked it too. I think it's a really good one. I think the biggest drawback is the fact that, like, again, I didn't remember why they were even working together. I kind of appreciate that the episode is just like, oh, they're already working together. We don't have to see why or how. They just are. And so there's something about that and the efficiency of storytelling of they just are. But I was still never clear as to why Firefly was helping Mr. Freeze, because it kind of goes back to the Batman and Robin point about how Mr. Freeze and Poison Ivy's goals are completely contradictory. I feel like Mr. Freeze and Firefly's goals aren't necessarily one and the same. So that was the one thing.
There's a line at the beginning of the episode where Batman basically says Firefly's like a gun for hire type of person. I feel like they just established it with that line, what he was doing. He's just doing it for the bag,
Okay. I might have missed that, because not only was I waking up and drinking coffee, but of course also Harley was running around. So there's always a chance that I can miss a little moment like that. So that was my biggest complaint. And also, even if that's the case, it's like, yeah, the plot is not particularly deep. It's, it's Mr. Freeze wants to freeze the city again, right? But that aside, I love the idea of teaming them up. I think the dynamic was fun, especially towards the end once they started turning on each other. I really enjoyed that. I liked the subplot about Batman's PR issue and Bruce working against Batman just for his own sake, which I thought was a fun angle. And then, yeah, like you said, the ending is really good. So I had a lot of fun with it. I don't think it's the deepest episode, but I certainly enjoyed it.
Same. I think
awesome.
We saw the same episode.
Yeah. It's a good time. And again, I appreciate that, especially here in season 2, there's a lot of teaming up of villains, because that's just fun. And I appreciate that they're like, why can't we? That was pretty rare in Batman the Animated Series, and it happened a couple of times in Batman 66, but it's one of those things where it's like, man, it should happen more, and I appreciate that this show's really going for it in the second season.
I mean, much like the comic books that we read for most of our lives, you have to eventually realize, as a villain in Gotham, Batman is too much for me to handle, so maybe I should bring in a little bit of help on this.
Mm-hmm.
Two heads are better than one kind of idea. So why that's not taken advantage of in more shows and movies and media and everything else, not entirely sure, but I mean, it just makes logical sense at that point.
Well, the irony is it happens in movies a lot.
Well,
ever since 1992. Have we had a single villain Batman movie since 1992?
The Batman?
I said since 1992.
Yeah.
I don't know if we have. I feel like every Batman movie has had multiple villains. The only ones that are kind of fuzzy is like BVS, because, well, there's really no Batman villains in that. It's Lex Luthor. But
I want to say the Batman. I know Penguin's in it, but it's not like he and Riddler were like teamed up.
Well, that's the thing is, the Batman has the Riddler, Catwoman, and Penguin. They never team up, but they're all in it. So yeah, I don't know. Just an observation, but I think that, yes, having Mr. Freeze and having Firefly teamed up is just a fun idea, and I think it's a lot of fun to watch. You've got Clancy Brown as Mr. Freeze, who I think is a great voice, of course, and very intimidating. That
man is a legend, and he is putting in so much work right now. I don't know if he's getting ready to retire and he's having a last hoorah, or if he just has that fire in him where he's trying to do it, but the stuff he's doing right now with voice work, and God, I feel like he's been in like 3 of the last 5 movies that I've watched that were, new releases. I love that man. I love him going all the way back to the Kurgan in Highlander. So
that's why I love him. At least that's why I initially love him. Is Highlander was like one of my favorites, and he was just so great as the Kurgan. And so yeah, anytime he would pop up, I'm like, yay! I love Clancy Brown. And then Jason Marsden, who is another old pro as Firefly, is a lot of fun too. And I really like. Not only do their powers contrast and their personalities contrast, but just those two voices. Like Clancy Brown, you can't get more dark and serious and gravelly, and Jason Marsden is kind of light and youthful, and the two really contrast each other nicely, and I think it works.
I agree. Even though they're very opposite, the dynamic of them together, I feel like, at least for me, I feel like it really worked in this episode.
Yeah, I agree. Awesome. All right. Well, what would you give a letter grade for Fire and Ice?
Honestly, I was kind of sitting in that B+ territory until that ending happened, and that elevated to a full A- for me. So,
okay.
Yeah, I love that ending. Again, that might be my favorite moment in the entire series so far.
Yeah, it's excellent. I'm at a B+. I think it's a very good episode. So for me, B+.
I think that's probably the correct grade. I just give it that extra point for how much I love that ending.
No, that's great. It got you, which means it's successful.
Right.
Awesome. All right. Well, the next episode up is The Laughing Bat, and that is the team up of the Penguin and the Joker.
I read the description on Max about that, and I'm kind of interested to watch and see how that one plays out.
I know. I'm looking forward to it, actually. Cool. Well, we'll do that next week, because if the internet is to be believed, which it should be, because the internet is always correct, sometime over the next week, we're going to finally get the Aquaman 2 trailer.
Really?
That's the scuttlebutt. Who knows if it's true, but that's the scuttlebutt. So if we get that trailer, we can do that trailer, and we can do The Laughing Bat, and next week is sorted.
Sounds like a glorious 4-hour episode.
I know. I just like when it's like I don't have to figure out what we're doing next week, and the universe goes, here's something new that you don't have to think that hard.
Yeah, homework sucks.
Oh, it's not even the homework. For me, it's the okay, what do I do this week? What is
part of the homework is
well, that's true.
It's like trying to decide how to write your thesis.
So, all right. Well, next time it's The Laughing Bat. That'll be a lot of fun. And if we get that trailer, then that's what we're doing next week. If we don't get the trailer, I'll figure it out.
I don't know if you've heard, but rumor around town says the test screenings for Aquaman 2 were abysmal.
Well, the internet's always right.
Of course.
All right, there you go. That is it for this next episode of The Batman. Thanks to everybody who's following along. But we're not ready to say goodbye just yet. We've got to check in with you fine feathered finks and crack open the Wayne Manor mailbox. It's time again for the Wayne Manor mailbox.
You've got mail.
Darren, what is a letter for me?
Maybe temporary.
She wrote a letter. You're one hell of a messenger.
This is all, Master Wayne.
All right, we got some emails. This first one is a Blue Beetle email, and I didn't read it last time because Brendan hadn't seen Blue Beetle. And I was trying to be respectful of spoilers. And so hopefully, so if he's listened, Brendan, jump forward 5 minutes. But we're going to finally talk about this. So it's not super spoilery, but a little bit. So that's why, just to be safe, I didn't read it last time. It's from Mark Bickford. It says, "Hey guys, first of all, I was yesterday years old when it dawned on me that Harleen is just an extension of Arlene. My condolences to Arlene Sorkin's loved ones. She created a treasure." At the same time, Bob Barker and Days of Our Lives' vet Arlene dying in rapid succession, any other old Gen X daytime TV icons still with us might want to visit the doctor soon. Regarding Blue Beetle, I really enjoyed it. I'm adding it to the pile of stuff that has been unjustly ignored, and I'm especially glad that Ted Kord appeared in it because it makes me think that we might be getting closer to the possibility of the Question in live action. I still think it was possible that Steve Ditko had some poison pill clause in his contract with Charlton that might have blocked his creations from being used in live action without his approval. But he's no longer with us, and I doubt that his heirs care. One thing I spotted that you didn't mention in your review was when they get to the Owl Cave, or whatever it was called, Jenny spent some time looking at a mannequin with the beginnings of a new costume on it. The camera work even calls attention to it. From what I could see, it looked like a female mannequin. Was Ted setting her up to be his successor? Your thoughts? Have a great week, Mark. Thank you, Mark, and appreciate that. So I agree. I loved Blue Beetle. I mean, here's a little bit of silver lining is it is having pretty good legs at the box office where they even delayed the digital release because it's still doing pretty well in theaters, at least domestically. So it's not like a smash. It's not, making all the money or anything, but like the declines week to week have been pretty small, which I'm like, well, at least that means word of mouth is positive. So
Yeah,
I'll take
small victories.
Exactly. I'll take any small victory.
For whatever that's worth, I have this this friend of mine that I know from football stuff online who also happens to be into the geek life, but he and his crew are like way more into like the whole anime scene, but they still have the appreciation for the Marvel stuff. The one guy, the friend of mine, he's into the DC stuff too, but his crowd is generally pretty anti-DC for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
And I just happened to catch a thread on his wall where they were talking about Blue Beetle, and they were all saying, this is the movie that they should have released 7 years ago. This is so good, appreciating the representation, and it was a good story and all this other stuff. So like they were all pretty universally praising this thing. And I canceled my Twitter. I'm not doing that thing anymore, but for all of the little buzz and conversations that I've seen, everything has been pretty positive or really positive. So take that for whatever it's worth.
Oh yeah. Let's say a friendly acquaintance of mine on social media. I wouldn't call him a friend because I don't know him all that well, but he's a friendly acquaintance. He posted something to the effect of, and it was funny because it was like nice to see, but also annoying, if you know what I mean. Where he said, finally a good DC movie. I mean, it's not great, but it's better than all the other DC movies. And I was like, I like how this is like, it's like positive, but still manages to get like 3 digs in while it's being positive.
Yeah, that feels like a punch in the face and then helping you up off the ground when you're flat on your back, I guess.
Yeah, but I guess my point is it shows what this person thinks of DC movies. It shows the perception, and even they had to admit the Blue Beetle was good. So I was like, okay, I guess in some ways it's a compliment. It's just I'm like how many insults can you fit into this compliment? Anyway, the point is, so yeah, in the Beetle Cave or whatever, there are there is the like Golden Age Blue Beetle costume. There's the Ted Kord Silver Age Blue Beetle costume. And then, yeah, there was like the unmade costume, which I noticed, but I didn't quite figure out what it was. But I think, Mark, I think you might have a good point. I'll have to look at it again when I see the movie again. But I didn't quite, I wasn't able to get a good enough look at it that I didn't think twice about it. But that's possible that maybe he was starting to create a suit for his daughter. What do you think, Jamie?
I don't have a particular recollection of observing that. I think I was looking more at the classic costume than anything else around it.
Yeah.
And if there was some focus on it, I apparently missed it or just don't recall it. But yeah, I mean, that would make sense that that's why it was there.
Yeah. I think, yeah, you might be onto something. And I certainly didn't think that when I was watching it. But now when I watch it again, I will pay extra attention. All right, next message is from Jalen. It says, "Hey, Holy BatCast crew, I wanted to respond to your memories of the Dark Knight episode. You covered the majority of my memories regarding the build-up to the film, but I wanted to mention some others. I remember getting the first good look at the Joker in November of 2007 when a puzzle was released. By the time fans figured out each piece of the puzzle, it revealed the Joker in the jail cell, and that went on to be the cover for Empire magazine. There was also the Gotham City pizza at Domino's, the Batman-shaped Reese's peanut butter cups, and the Dark Knight roller coaster opening at Six Flags that summer. One of the more annoying promos for me was the Kellogg's minifigures. I bought at least 3 boxes of cereal hoping to get a Joker, and every time I got Batman. I followed the marketing from the moment the first image of Ledger debuted in May of 2007, but my own personal hype didn't kick in until the third trailer attached to Iron Man premiered. I remember a local theater painting a mural on the side of the building of the teaser poster with the 2 black circles and the red mouth in the shape of the bat symbol. The same theater showed the film for 48 hours on opening weekend. My brother and I went to a sold-out IMAX showing at 6:15 a.m., and it still stands as one of the best movie-going experiences of my life. Lastly, the thing that really got me excited at the time was hearing Richard Roeper, a respected film critic, say that The Dark Knight deserved consideration for Best Picture. To hear a film critic say something like that about a superhero movie was unbelievable. It was on the same level of seeing Roger Ebert put Spider-Man 2 in his top 10 for 2004. As someone who was born in 1992, I've always felt that there have only been 2 superhero films in my lifetime that felt like an event. One was Spider-Man in 2002, and the other is The Dark Knight. In both cases, the marketing was everywhere, the anticipation was palpable. For the more younger generation, I know that Endgame was also a huge event, but I don't recall the hype for that movie being on the same level as the other 2. With how much superhero films have flooded the market, I don't see anything on the level of 2002 and 2008 happening again anytime soon, but I'd like to be proven wrong." Thank you, Jalen, and thank you for sharing some of your memories of The Dark Knight. And yeah, there are some fun ones in there. You mentioned the minifigures in the Kellogg cereal. I wonder if those are the figures that were on my birthday cake that summer. They look like they should have come from a cereal box, but I only remember them because they were on my birthday cake, but they might have come from a cereal box. So I'm going to have to Google that and see if that's what they are. The other thing that you noticed that was a great call is the Dark Knight coaster at Six Flags. So that summer in 2008, I went home to Illinois for a visit, and I made my siblings go to Six Flags Great America with me just so I could ride the Dark Knight coaster. And we waited like 2 hours for the Dark Knight coaster. And I don't know if you've been on it. Anybody out there who's been on it, it's not great because Six Flags. But I didn't care because it was better than nothing. And then last summer, when we were in Illinois, we went to Six Flags. It's still there. And so I got to ride it again, which was super fun because now it's nostalgic. I went from the first ride to being brand new and excited to being nostalgic and nothing in between. So yeah, the Dark Knight coaster, because what they did was have you ever been on it, Jamie?
No.
It's like they bought like an off-the-shelf coaster that's called a Wild Mouse, and then they just put it in a box, and then they kind of scattered a little bit of like show around the pre-existing coaster track. And so it was like they tried, but like it's not the best. Anyway, so yeah, I really appreciate you sharing your memories, and I agree. Like Spider-Man in 2002, that was Spider-Mania. Like we talked about Batmania in 89 and 08, there was Spider-Mania in 02. So I always think it can happen again. And as we talked on the last episode, maybe it could be Superman. Maybe it's Superman's turn. So
I don't feel
Jamie,
like there's been any real Superman mania since 1978.
yeah, I know. And
No, not counting BVS, because BVS had a lot of hype building up around it. But I
well,
guess you could make the argument that that was in there, but that wasn't so much people were excited about Superman. They were more excited about Superman fighting Batman and Batman meeting in live action on a big screen for the first time, sort of a thing. I mean, I
well,
feel like that was more the hype centering there.
we talked about that in the last episode. Man of Steel had a ton of hype going in, especially because of that final trailer.
It did, but not to those levels, in my opinion.
I'd argue it was close because there was Superman stuff everywhere leading up to the release of Man of Steel. Like, I remember going to Old Navy and there was like a whole Superman shirt section leading up to the release of Man of Steel. And same thing with Hot Topic. Like, there was so much hype for Man of Steel, and the opening weekend, really showed that the interest was there. And as I said in the last episode, unfortunately, the movie didn't work for everyone, and so it didn't become the movie of the summer the way it could have had more people liked it. But I think that, yes, had the movie been received differently, we could have had Superman Mania in 2013. Yeah. But anyway, anything else to add about the Dark Knight memories back in 2008? Because you didn't get to join that episode anyway.
No, I think I pretty much covered most of mine right before we did the commentary for the most part. But just to address the thing that he was talking about with Endgame, I feel like it's a little bit slighted there because Marvel has hyped their product in a much, much different fashion than anybody else has, as pretty much every movie released for a year before that is building you to it.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's not so much, the event moment as you have a series of events that bring you to a larger event.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously it worked because the thing made $3 billion friggin' dollars, but it's just a different type of build up and hype that went into that one.
Yeah, that's a good point, because I was thinking about that, because it's like, obviously the hype was there for Endgame based on the box office, but you're right, it didn't feel the same as something like Spider-Man in 2002 or Batman in 1989 or even The Dark Knight. It felt different, and maybe that's it. Maybe you're right, Jamie, it was like this gradual hype as each film was being released that led to Endgame. Mm-hmm. It was kind of like a ramp up as opposed to a one movie event where everything's kind of all in the moment.
Right. And even Spider-Man to a degree, I feel like is different because, Batman 89, it's like the trailer or announcement. I don't recall like an announcement prior to the trailer. I just remember seeing the trailer and being, oh my God, a Batman movie. And then it just kind of built up from there. Spider-Man, I feel like, was a little different because that thing was in development hell for the better part of a decade.
Mm-hmm.
And people knew that. Like, even like at the infancy of the internet and, the magazines that you would read that would talk about it. I remember at one point James Cameron wanting to do it with DiCaprio as Spider-Man. And I remember that getting a lot of a buzz one way or another. And I talked about it with a lot of people and we were all pretty excited about the idea. And then, it kept dying. Like every time something would happen, it would just die and disappear. So by the time the movie finally was a real tangible thing, people were ready for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So just a little bit different in that too. I mean, all of it is a mania of its own degree, but each one's a little bit different in that respect.
Yeah, that's true. All right, next email here is from Tom Fallows. It says, "Hey guys, I'm not jumping down the let's beat James Gunn with a stick because he doesn't like Batman 89. However, the tweets did raise the question, what is James Gunn's interpretation of Batman? He seems to have issues with the Burton films and the Nolan films, so it makes me wonder, how does James Gunn see Batman? Now, these tweets are 10 years old or older, so interpretations and opinions do change. However, I found it interesting. Given his previous films, I think he will go more comic accurate. However, I wonder how dark he will go. Thanks for the great podcast, Tom Fallows." Thanks, Tom. I am going to be honest. So I heard about this. I did not see what he allegedly said. But my understanding is yes, like 15 years ago, James Gunn on Facebook or Twitter, I don't even know if Twitter was around 15 years ago, so maybe it was Facebook, but he like basically had comments criticizing Batman 89. I didn't see what they were. I didn't bother to look. I just kind of heard about it in passing. And I was like, that sounds stupid. I don't have time to care about that. Because I don't really care what James Gunn said about Batman 89 15 years ago. Like it just doesn't matter to me. But did you hear about any of this, Jamie?
I only know about this because I was on Google looking something up and I saw James Gunn Batman as the first thing that was like on Google search that day. So I'm like, oh, was there an announcement that I missed? So I clicked on it and immediately it was a bunch of clickbait articles about James Gunn deletes Facebook account because of Burton Batman comments or something like that. And I scrolled past a few of the things and saw they were all trying to say the same shit. And it was all from places that I don't like reading anything from anyway. So I reset Google and went about my day.
Yeah, I
don't know what he said.
I don't either. Yeah.
Apparently they're trying to say he was, saying detrimental things about it. But you know what? Even if he doesn't like that movie, so what?
Exactly. I don't care. I don't care. I love that movie. I don't care if he didn't like it 15 years ago. It's just like the fact that people are so bored or so intent on trying to like find dirt on him that they're going to find 15-year-old comments about Batman 89. I'm just like, y'all, come on. So yeah, I honestly, I don't know what he said. I don't know what his issues with the movie are, and I don't care. But to your question is like, what is James Gunn's version of Batman? What's his interpretation? That is a good question, and I am curious to see the answer. So I wonder the same, because I do think he will go more comic booky, more fantastical, based on Guardians of the Galaxy, based on the Suicide Squad, based on Peacemaker. He likes making live action comic books, and those movies prove that. So I do expect it to be colorful. I expect it to be imaginative. But because he decided to go with Damian Wayne first, as far as Robin goes, it does make me wonder if it's still going to be, there's still going to be darkness there. There's going to be violence there, because that's what I think of with Damian Wayne. And so I do wonder if that, like, that's my concern, is by going Damian Wayne first, is it going to be still an adult, violent Batman story, even if it's more fantastical? I don't know. But I do worry that he's going to go down too far that road. But you can do Damian without going down that road too. So it's just a wait and see. But I've thought the same thing about like, what is James Gunn's Batman going to look like? And we just have to see.
So my question now becomes, is he writing Brave and the Bold?
I don't believe so. I think it's Christina Hodson again, or maybe that was just a rumor. I can't remember if that ever got confirmed.
So I have to wonder, obviously he's the studio head. He's running the show with this. Maybe he's giving certain things that he needs out of that for the connectivity and whatnot. But maybe he might say, hey, we need to do this and this, but it's your thing. You run with it. So I think a lot of it's going to depend on the writer and director for what we really get out of it, and less about what Gunn himself thinks, other than how it's going to be involved in the grander picture of this universe.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's very true. It has to fit into what overall story James Gunn wants to tell. But I do think a bigger clue is how Andy Muschietti sees Batman. And based on The Flash, that gives me a lot of hope, because I love
that's exactly the road I was going down with this. So
yeah.
Thank you for understanding.
Yes, because I loved what Andy Muschietti did with Batman and The Flash. I know that now, because the movie didn't do well, it's also become cool to be like, fire Andy Muschietti. It's like, y'all, do you really blame Andy Muschietti for that?
Of all the complaints I've heard about that movie, his portrayal of either of the Batmen that are featured in it was not one of them.
Yeah. So honestly, walking out of The Flash, I was extremely excited to see what this next Batman could be, because Andy Muschietti was not afraid to do a more fantastical and comic booky Batman that still was not cartoony. And I found that the balance was very well done, both with the Affleck stuff and with the Keaton stuff.
I'm just excited as hell that we have somebody that's not afraid to put the blue and gray costume on a screen.
Right? All right. Well, Tom Fallis continues. He sent us another one, and I'm glad you're here, Jamie, because this one's for you. It says, "Hey guys, I've been listening to the podcast for years now. Not long after BVS came out, I've always wondered, why does Jamie hate Catwoman? I've looked through hundreds of episodes. I can't find a time when he's actually stated why. And speaking as a non-Talia fan, what's the appeal? I feel like Grant Morrison is the only person who made her interesting. Kind regards, and don't at me, Tom Fallows." Thanks, Tom. I think I know why you don't like Catwoman, but I'm curious. Yeah, because you've never gone into detail. You've just said the relationship doesn't do it for you, and the character doesn't do it for you.
No, it doesn't. And all respect to Catwoman. She's a classic character for a reason. She's just not one of my personal favorites, and never really has been, other than maybe a few formative things and seeing women in tight suits. But that's beside the point. The idea behind Batman getting weak in the knees for a woman, it can happen to any man, I guess, or any person, anything. It's always thrown me off that he becomes so distracted by her, even though I know it's probably realistic to an extent. I can't stand the way that some people write her. Tom King, looking at you. The bouncing back and forth between villain and anti-hero and that dynamic. It was always kind of confusing to me because one day she might be a jewel thief. The next day she might be at Batman's side fighting ninjas. I feel like she's a really almost bipolar character depending on who's writing her or what's going on in a particular group of stories. She just never appealed to me on the level that, some other members of the Bat family or Villains Gallery did. I don't hate Catwoman. There are probably 12 other characters that I would rather see at any given moment.
Yeah. Well, and that's what I thought is so you don't hate her. You just aren't as into her. And because they go back to the Batman Catwoman well so often, it seems like you just kind of get exhausted of it.
I do. I'm just never been my thing.
All right.
Even though I understand it, and I don't really have a problem with them doing it once in a while, but they've pretty much written it to the point now where she's Mrs. Batman and at his side constantly and everything. I just not for me.
Yeah. And then what about Talia? You want to mount a case for Talia?
So my thing with Talia is almost hypocritical given what I just said here, because Batman basically, we know the Joker is Batman's arch nemesis. We know that. But in my brain, I've always had it where Ra's al Ghul is his biggest nemesis. I think he poses a larger scale threat and problem for Batman. And he matches Batman on a intelligence level, on a physical level. He poses a threat to Batman any place, anytime, anywhere. And his scheme and his ideas are on a world scale instead of, just harassing a city in America. Again, I'm not disrespecting Joker here. I just always felt like Ra's was a larger threat than Batman. And the fact that Batman fell in love with his arch nemesis daughter and bore a child with her, and she is very much like her father in that she's super intelligent, she's physically capable. She just always appealed to me on those levels because I found it interesting that Batman did fall in love with her, did have a child with her, but they have that doomed relationship quality between them. And I think they both know it, even though at times it was portrayed like they didn't want to acknowledge it. Like the forbidden love, the doomed love. I always found that more interesting. And maybe the reason that I'm sounding hypocritical to myself in saying this is because I didn't feel like that ever dominated Batman stories for any particular period of time. Like there would be a story written about it and there would be an acknowledgement of it, and then stuff would just kind of move along.
Mm-hmm.
Versus the Catwoman thing, I really feel like it's been spinning its wheels for 20 years or more.
Yeah. Well, and I do think that's probably a big part of it is you don't see the Talia one nearly as much. So it's like, you're not tired of it. It still feels unique and interesting when they go back to it, as opposed to the Catwoman one, which has just been done a lot.
I also hate it when Catwoman says meow all the time.
Okay.
It just bothers me somehow.
What's she supposed to say? Woof?
No, she's supposed to, act like a normal person instead of walking around acting like a cat. Like once in a while, it's fine. I get it.
Her
She's
name
Catwoman.
isn't Normal Person Woman.
I understand that, but like, my God, Tom King, like really made me dislike some of Catwoman, because you couldn't turn a page without her saying meow in his stories, and that just drove me crazy. Drove me crazy.
But I don't call myself Super Batman.
Listen, when you're putting Phantasm, who I love as a character, into continuity and writing her in books, and I stop reading by the 5th issue because I can't take it anymore, there's a problem. I'm just saying.
All right. Okay, well, let's move on. This next one here is from Mark Bickford. It says, safe for Brendan. It says, hey guys, I apologize for having 2 messages in the mailbox, but I figured you could read this one even if Brendan is on the show, and Australia is still waiting for Blue Beetle. For the Blue Beetle movie files to be sent from Madagascar via transoceanic dial-up modem. Anyway, after taking a vacation during which we lost Arlene Sorkin, Bob Barker, Jimmy Buffett, and the lead singer from Smash Mouth, I was dismayed to see Bob Newhart trending on Twitter, or X if you prefer. Fortunately, it was just his birthday, but it just made me think, what do you think would have been a good villain for him to play on the Batman 66 show? The one that came to mind, even though he hadn't been invented at the time, was the ventriloquist. It wouldn't matter if Bob didn't do ventriloquism. You could always loop Scarface's dialogue afterwards, and if Bob's mouth was moving, that could just be part of the gag. The guy makes this whole villain gimmick, but he's the world's worst ventriloquist. I'm sitting here imagining Bob doing his patented reaction takes to whatever madness was coming out of Scarface's mouth, and I'm mentally laughing my ass off. Your thoughts? Do you have any other ideas of who he could have played? Have a great week. I hope Brendan's happy. I hope he doesn't hold up Aquaman until sometime around the Batman Part 2. Mark. Thanks, Mark. So, yes, Bob Newhart is fortunately still with us. I don't know if I have a better answer than the ventriloquist. That seems pretty good for his deadpan delivery. Do you have any other thoughts, Jamie?
No, I don't think I do.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of anyone else he could be, but nothing springs to mind. So, I think you nailed it. I don't know. Yeah, like you said, maybe not in Batman 66, but at some point he could have been a pretty good ventriloquist. So, happy birthday, Bob Newhart. All right, this next message is from Loxley. It says, hey there, hope you're having a good day. I used to write in occasionally under my old email, My Neighbor Burrito, but I stopped using my middle name and I got a new email with my real name. That's good, Loxley, because I didn't know your real name. Because, yeah, My Neighbor Burrito, I definitely remember that. But anyway, it said, I recently listened to your Dark Knight commentary, and for the first time, I actually watched along with you. I absolutely loved watching it with you guys, especially knowing that I was watching Jamie's favorite movie with him. I'm currently in between the 2 Harley episodes that you just did the commentary for, and it's comforting. Also, I finally took Brendan's advice and I read the No Man's Land novel. It was so entertaining and inspired me to reread the Nightfall novel. I wasn't allowed to read comics at the time, so I borrowed the novelization from the library, and I remember being terrified of Bane. I was 10. Anyway, sorry for the long email with no real point. I just wanted to say thanks for so many years of entertainment and comfort. I love tuning in each week just to hear you talking. Oh, and more Catherine episodes would be great. All the best, Loxley. Thank you, Loxley, and thanks for watching along with us on our commentaries. I'm glad that you read the No Man's Land novel. I need to figure out where it's even available these days, but no, appreciate the very nice message. And yes, Catherine will be back before you know it, I'm sure. I told her that when she's on, people enjoy it. So she was happy to hear that.
I mean, when Brendan and I are both championing her to replace us, you know she's doing a fine job.
She is. So, all right. Thanks, Loxley.
Oh, and to the No Man's Land thing, I don't know if I'm ever going to read the novelization, even though I've heard resounding praise for that thing over the years. But I thought, I have DC Universe. I can, do this without much hassle until I typed in No Man's Land and it came back with over 100 books. Yeah, that's never going to happen.
Exactly.
Like
That's
maybe
that's
I'm old
exactly
and
it.
retired and DC Universe is still a thing. Maybe I'll read through that, but like right now, I can barely find the time to get my Scarathon stuff done the way I need to, or hang out with my family, or I notice how Scarathon preceded them in that. So there's some priorities for you.
Whoopsie.
Yeah, but
Well, they don't
that's
listen.
a
They'll never
lot
know.
of commitment, man. A lot.
I know. Well, I remember being like, wow, why haven't I read No Man's Land? And I was going to buy the, collected editions. And it's like 3 huge encyclopedia-sized collected editions. You can't even fit it in one.
And even that's not all of it.
Yeah. It's
Because
crazy.
there's like 3 story arcs that led into it, then the arc itself, then all the crossovers that were involved with it. I mean, it's mind-boggling how much time it would take to read that event.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the largest comics event that's ever happened, but by God, it sure feels like it's in the conversation.
I think you're probably right. Okay, the next message is from Adil. It says, "Hey guys, I hope you're doing well. First off, my condolences to Andy. It was a moving tribute that you gave to your father. After my uncle's death, an image which helped me during the difficult time is that grief is a ball trapped in the jar of life. The size of the ball never changes, but the jar of life continues to grow, and it makes the ball of grief smaller in comparison. I know it isn't eloquently put, but I hope that meaning is conveyed properly. Well, it looks like Blue Beetle will not be profitable for WB, and Aquaman 2 hasn't even gotten a teaser trailer with 3 months left to spare, and Gunn's DCU is going to start with Creature Commandos. We can safely say that the DCEU is dead, filled with mixed results and a whimpering end. Superhero fatigue may be a factor for the general audience for the lack of box office, but James Gunn would need to knock it out of the park with Superman Legacy for the DCU to not be dead on arrival. What do you reckon will be the measure of success for it to be considered successful? Also, I really hope that the interconnected universe between movies, games, and animation is treated more like a bonus if you consume all together, but still independent enough for it to be enjoyable on its own. I don't want it to follow the Marvel approach. Also, unrelated, have you guys watched One Piece when it came out on Netflix? I found it really enjoyable. It was funny, fantastical, and whimsy with a hit of serious, but I feel like it was missing from a lot of shows these days, and you should give it a try. I doubt Jamie will like it, but I hope he does. Anyway, sorry for the long email. It's been a while, and I wish you the best. Yours truly, Adil. Thanks, Adil. Thank you for the kind words about my father. I don't know One Piece. Jamie, do you know One Piece?
I don't know. I assume it's based off of the anime because, again, that friend I was referencing earlier, where him and his crew are into the anime stuff, I feel like One Piece is something they talked about a lot. So I assume whatever this thing that Netflix just released a couple weeks ago is a live action version of that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know it, so I can't really speak to it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not familiar with it, so you're right. It has kind of gotten lost because Jamie and I don't know it either. As for the question about the DCEU and then starting up the DCU, thoughts, Jamie, and especially what do you think is the measure of success for Superman Legacy?
My thoughts are just based on what James Gunn has said to this point. I feel like we're going to have a connected universe, but not a dependent universe.
Yeah.
I think every indication and everything that he said so far has indicated that, it's going to span across all these various mediums, and it's not going to be something where you have to play the video game to understand the movie, to read the comic book, to watch the animated series. I don't feel like that's where we're at with it. Mm-hmm. And to a degree, I feel like Marvel is very much that way too. I mean, there are definitely some things in Marvel where you're going to maybe scratch your head if you haven't watched this thing or experienced this thing. But I feel like it's going to be a less a connected but less dependent version of that. So yeah, I feel like what he's saying about, it'll reward people who do all of it, but it's not going to detract from people who don't.
Yeah.
That's the indication I'm given, or translation I'm taking from it.
I hope that is the case. We have talked about this in multiple episodes. It's at least come up somewhere where that is my hope too, is that it's connected, but it can't be too connected. Things still have to be standalone enough that if someone only watches this movie or this show, it still has to make sense. I think Marvel, especially in phase 4, has definitely been tripped up by this. I think Marvel's been too connected where they expect you to watch everything. And I think that's a huge mistake. I think even Star Wars has fallen into that, but if I say that out loud, I'm going to get a nasty email. But like, there's connected is good, too connected I think is bad, and I think that balance is important, and I hope that James Gunn has a good plan to keep that balance. As for success and profitability, I think that you're not wrong. Is that it is very sad to me, but unfortunately, it is the case that the DCEU has ended with a whimper and not a bang. The Flash is kind of the end. Aquaman 2 is still coming. I don't know how much, if any, closure that will give us. But yeah, it just feels like the universe and the continuity is just sort of crapped out instead of culminating in a big finale. And that sucks for those of us who love that universe. But as I've said in the past, the break between Aquaman 2 and Superman Legacy will be a good thing. That break will be necessary for people in their minds to separate it and realize this is a new start. Yes, Creature Commandos, quote unquote, is the first project in the universe, but the real start is Superman Legacy. Creature Commandos, some of us are going to watch it, but that one definitely shouldn't be required viewing for Superman Legacy.
That's exactly why I think Gunn's telling the truth here. I mean, how many people are going to watch Creature Commandos, outside of the hardcore, diehards to begin with, are going to watch that show and think, this is the start of the universe, so I need to get on board at the ground level and right into it. I think you're exactly right. I think even though it's all connected and all that other crap, I really think Superman Legacy is the big kickoff. I think Creature Commandos is just kind of the pregame warm-ups, if you will.
Yeah. And as for the bar for success for Superman Legacy, I think that going in and expecting it out of the gate to be $1 billion smash, I think is unrealistic because of how much baggage is coming with this new start of this universe.
Exactly.
I think that, as long as it isn't a complete bomb, right? If it does moderately well, but is well received, that will be a bar for success for the universe going forward. I don't know what it's budgeted at, but let's say $200 million. Which is what Black Adam was budgeted at. So if that's about what they spend on it and it can make $600 million, that's not a, massive phenomenon of box office, but that's a good, solid, profitable box office for a movie of that scale. And I think that will be good enough, especially to get this new universe started. But the more important thing is that people like it. And that's the problem is Man of Steel made over $600 million, but it was divisive. People are still fighting about it 10 years later. So if Superman Legacy can make essentially the same amount of money, but just be better received, that I think would be considered successful.
I fully agree with everything you say, but for me, the measure of success is not even the box office. I mean, obviously box office is important, and that's what Warner Brothers is most concerned with. We know that. It's a business. That's just how things are. For me, the measure of success will be, and there's always going to be the loudmouth minorities that are going to hate something no matter what. So we just can't let go of the past. That's fine. But the conversation being overwhelmingly positive amongst general public, geek circles, and everything else.
Yeah.
Much like I just talked about, the Blue Beetle conversation seems to have been resoundingly positive from what I've seen. To me, that's going to be the measure of success for Superman, in addition to, at least being in the black for its box office returns.
No, and I think you're right. That is such a huge part of it because Blue Beetle financially is not a success. It's not. But everyone who's seen it has at least liked it. I don't think I've seen anyone who hated it, who thought it was terrible. Doesn't mean they're not out there. They're always out there, but I haven't seen it. And so in general, the reception to that movie was that it was good, or it was very good, or it was great. And that still is a success in some way. So, like after Shazam and then the Flash, I'm like, I'm not holding out hope for any of the DC movies this year to be huge box office successes, but at least the perception of Blue Beetle is that it was a good movie. And so I think that helps a lot too.
And that is important. The reason I think it's important, not only for my own mental well-being, but for the fact that if the first one out of the gate is a very positive reception, even if it has a moderate box office, the next movie will get a few more butts and seats because of the goodwill that has earned. The sequel will get even more butts in the seats because of all the goodwill that's returned. We've talked about this, I don't even know how many times over the course of the show. Batman Begins was not an explosive box office success.
Yeah.
And I still maintain that people were bitten in the ass over Batman and Robin and did not flock to it to see it because they still didn't have that goodwill back. But then when The Dark Knight came out, because of the overwhelming positivity and word of mouth from Batman Begins, that's where the phenomenon really kicked off in that trilogy. Mm-hmm. So very much to me, that can set the bar for this universe. If Superman Legacy is a success critically and with the fans and with the general audiences and with the box office, everything can build from there. It doesn't have to be $1 billion right out of the gates. It can build to that. And to me, that's more important than getting one huge success out of the gates, then getting complacent and not turning out the best quality product that we would all want to see.
Yeah. No, I mean, and just to back up that point, the first huge, massive hit that Marvel had was the Avengers. Iron Man was a big hit, but it made, I think, 585, which was a very good sum, but it wasn't, this insanely massive thing. And the first time they hit $1 billion was with the Avengers, which was what, the 5th movie? 6th? Because it was Iron Man 2, Thor, Captain America, and then Avengers, I think.
Yes.
So maybe 5. Yeah. Oh, Hulk. I always forget about Hulk was in there. So
everybody forgets about Hulk.
It was the 6th. But Iron Man was a great movie and people loved it and it was a hit. And I'll even give a more recent example. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse was a modest hit, but it was not a massive hit. Check the box office. I think it made 300 worldwide, something like that, maybe 350. And now I'm going to check because I don't need any nasty emails. But anyway, my point is,
get it from Hunter.
He heard me right now. He's twitching because his
spider sense is tingling.
He felt it. Yes, 384. So it made 384 worldwide, which is very good. But again, not this massive runaway success. But everyone liked it. It got great reviews. People who saw it loved it. And then this year, the sequel came out and was a true breakout sequel, runaway success, and it made twice that because of the goodwill from the first one. And I think that's got to be the goal for Superman Legacy.
Agreed.
All right. Well, there's one last email that's barely an email. It's real quick. And I appreciate the brevity. This comes from Benjamin. It says, "Hey, Batcasters, episode idea, top 10 DC animated movies. That is all. Keep casting the bat, Benjamin." Thanks, Benjamin. And now when I got this, I'm like, didn't we do that? I feel like we did that, but maybe we didn't. Maybe we only did the Batman animated movies.
If we did it, I don't recall it.
So maybe that's it. Maybe we only did the Batman animated movies. And so in that case, Benjamin, you're right. This feels like we should do this. So I will add it to the list, especially for a week when I don't know what to do. But thank you, Benjamin. And I think I messaged you guys and Brendan goes, "Yeah, I don't think we have." And I'm like, okay. So usually Brendan's the best at remembering what we have and haven't done. You'd think I'd remember, but we're over 400 episodes. It gets fuzzy. So yeah, if we hadn't done this, you're right, Benjamin, we should do it. All right. Well, that's it. We're closing the Wayne Manor mailbox. If you've got something for the Wayne Manor mailbox, you can send that to Holy BatCast at rf4rm.com. And that's where we're going to wrap up this episode, Jamie. Thanks for hanging out this Sunday morning.
Yeah, it was, I got just enough time to do a little house cleaning before football starts now.
Well, there you go. Perfect. I'm going to go down, probably have another cup of coffee. And delay getting ready for the day. Delay using my Manscaped products. But anyway, yeah, thank you for joining. And Jamie, is there anywhere that they can find you, or just
Letterboxd under my name, Jamie Drewley. I'm, pretty active on there right now, going through my Scarathon stuff. Real Fans on Facebook is in full blown Scarathon swing right now, even though some people somehow are ahead of me, and I feel like I'm pacing on about 3 movies a day. Maybe because some of you started in August 1st instead of August 31st.
What do you mean?
Hunter got his pass because I understood why he was doing it, but I feel like Hunter did it, and like 6 other people were like, "Yeah, I'm gonna start now."
I know.
Hey, everybody does their own thing. But yeah, Scarathon in full swing. So a lot of activity on the Real Fans page on Facebook and on my Letterboxd.
Yep. I was gonna say real quick, just because I was curious. So Across the Spider-Verse essentially made domestically what Into the Spider-Verse made worldwide.
I still haven't seen it yet.
I finally watched it last week in preparation for our Real Fans summer wrap-up.
Really?
Yeah, I put Scarathon on hold for one whole evening so I could watch Across the Spider-Verse.
Well, we know where your priorities lay, sir.
Well, like you said, like I'm ahead than what I'm usually at this point in the season. So, and I'm doing like 1 movie a night. But for me, that's pretty good. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. But the point is we are doing our Scarathon. I did watch Across the Spider-Verse in preparation for our summer wrap-up because, like I said at the beginning, the Real Fans podcast feed, there's a lot of stuff coming, and it's coming soon. So, guys, if you listen to Holy BatCast and you dip in and out of Real Fans, which is fair because we dip in and out of Real Fans, keep an eye on that feed in the next couple weeks because we have a lot coming. We're going to do the summer movie wrap-up. We're going to kick off spooky season, and I think we have at least 3 spooky episodes coming before Halloween. So fun stuff. Check those out. But thank you for joining us for this. Thanks for hanging out and thinking about the bat, talking about the bat. And again, a huge thank you to Bruce Thomas for his time. And I hope you all enjoyed our conversation talking about his time in the Cape and Cowl. But please do subscribe or follow the show wherever you get your podcasts. Please rate and review us too. Something you can do to support us if you don't want to pledge on Patreon or you don't feel like shopping for Manscaped, that's okay. Simple thing you can do, just rate and review us. Give us a nice review. If you're going to give us a mean one, you don't have to. It's fine. But if you want to give us a nice one, that would be awesome. That really does help us out as well. Go to holybatcast.com and find Holy BatCast all over social media. Just search for us on Twitter, X, Facebook, Instagram, etc. If you got something for the Wayne Manor mailbox, again, that's holybatcast at rf4rm.com. Our theme music was created by the talented Gaurav Venkateswar. You can find his work at gvtunes.com. And don't forget to check out our sponsors over at manscaped.com. Do a little shopping over there and use that promo code BATSCAPED for 20% off and free shipping. But that will do it for this episode. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you next time. Same bat time, same bat channel. Holy BatCast is not affiliated with Warner Brothers or DC Entertainment. The views and opinions shared by the participants are theirs and theirs alone and do not represent the companies or organizations they happen to work for. I must have been really tired. I feel like I had worse mush mouth than usual. It's like, I'm like, I got to shake off those cobwebs. I'm like, blah, blah, blah. I need to do vocal exercises like in theater.
Lion face, lemon face, lion face, lemon face.
You need unique New York. You need unique New York.